Hey, I'm Morgan. In this video I'm going to review the Isokaze, the Tier 4 Japanese destroyer, which is both powerful and fun, although it does have its limitations. The story of the Isokaze begins with the Umikaze. You may recall the Umikaze from my Umikaze review, that the ship was a bit of a failure. It was designed to be a long-range open ocean escort destroyer, but was very unreliable in this role. Before the Umikazes were even commissioned, the Japanese had decided to avoid this problem by purchasing destroyers from the British. This was the Isokaze class. The Isokaze were decent ships, but when the First World War started, the British decided that they would rather hold on to them than send them over to Japan. Unfortunately, this meant that Japan was now engaged in a world war with no ocean-going destroyers, which is where the Isokaze class comes in. They were laid down in 1915. Over the previous 6 years, the Japanese shipbuilders had learnt a few lessons from the Umikaze and created a much better ship for the Japanese Navy. 4 Isokaze class destroyers were built, and unlike the Umikaze, its engines were reliable, it was seaworthy, and it packed a powerful punch. The Isokazes had 4 120mm guns to the Umikaze's 2, and 6 torpedo tubes where the Umikaze had 2. The Isokazes provided a huge boost in capabilities for the Japanese destroyer arm, but they arrived too late. They were completed in 1917, by which point there was very little fighting happening in the Pacific. Japanese destroyers were supporting the French and Italian navies in the Mediterranean, but in the comparatively sheltered seas, the second-class destroyers, basically the small destroyers like the Wakitakes, were sufficient, so there was no need to risk the larger Isokazes there. When I say like the Wakitakes, I mean the Wakitakes didn't serve in the Mediterranean, but similar ships did. The Isokazes never actually saw combat. One, the Tokitsukaze, was wrecked in a storm, which led to modifications to the design of the Minakaze and later destroyers, but that is about the extent of the influence of this class on history, at least directly. Indirectly, it demonstrated that the Japanese shipbuilding industry was up to the task of producing high-speed ocean-going destroyers, and confirming that they no longer need to be reliant on Britain for their shipbuilding expertise. After the Isokazes, the Japanese built a number of ocean-going destroyers, the Kawakazes, Minakazes, and Kamikazes, all joining the fleet by 1922. In World of Warships, the Isokaze is very powerful. Coming from the Wakitake, you will appreciate the extra torpedoes, better guns, and larger hit point pool, but you will also notice that the ship is a little bit less agile and slower than you are used to. In my opinion, firepower is where the Isokaze excels. It has 6 torpedo tubes, which when fully upgraded have a 7km range and travel at 68 knots. This range enables you to launch stealth torpedo attacks, and the speed of torpedoes means that your target will only have a very limited time to dodge. But that is not the limit of the Isokaze's firepower. It also gets 4 120mm guns. These are larger than the guns that its rivals, the Clemson and the Iziaslav, get, but they do fire slower, have shorter range, and higher traverse speed. However, these guns are excellent compared to most Japanese destroyer guns. The 9.1km max range and 2000 high explosive damage won't be surpassed until Tier 7, while the Mutsuki beats the Isokaze in rate of fire and traverse speed, but the Isokaze actually stays comparable in this respect against all the other Japanese destroyers. I think that tier for tier, the Isokaze has the best guns of any Japanese destroyer. However, I quite rarely used mine. The torpedoes on these ships are very effective, and using the guns seemed frivolous or risky most of the time. In survivability, the Isokaze also does well. It has 6.1km detection range, going down to 5.9 something if you use the correct camouflage, which gives you 900 meters to 1 km to launch torpedo attacks in without being spotted. The Isokaze also gets 10,300 hit points, which is sufficient for a Tier 4 destroyer and a lot more than you're used to coming from the Wakitake. Its only real weakness is its manoeuvrability. It still has a tight turning circle of 530 meters and a 4-second rudder shift time, both of which are good, but worse than what you're used to coming from the Warships. But where it really suffers is in its top speed. This is only 34 knots. Again, this is only slightly slower than the Warships, but the Tier 4 ships in general move quicker than the Tier 3 ships. The Kuma and the Phoenix are both faster than the Isokaze, as are the other Tier 4 destroyers. Basically, every ship that is good at killing destroyers at this tier is faster than you, so you won't be able to run away from them. Even evading battle cruisers like the Miyogi may prove difficult, as, well, at least I was always tempted to turn broadside onto them to fire your torpedoes, which allows them to catch up to you. I played 35 games in the Isokaze, winning 65.7% of them, and doing 45,500 damage per game, which I'm fairly happy with, but I actually don't have much in the way of tactics to share with you. If you've done well in the Warships, you will do well in the Isokaze. For me, the typical game basically starts with scouting and trying to find an isolated battleship, then sinking said battleship through stealth attacks. The guns do give you a much greater ability to skirmish than on the Warships. However, this will still be happening at fairly close range, so you will have to expect to take damage in return. Because of your 3 pairs of torpedo tubes and rapid reload, about 40 seconds, I've really got no problems with firing torpedoes at enemy destroyers or cruisers, as you see me doing now. You don't get very many hits, but there's just very little cost to spamming torpedoes in low tier Japanese destroyers, so I figure you may as well do it. Like the Warships, your first priority has to be remaining unseen. At the moment this is a case of do what I say, not what I do, because I'm firing my guns away at these enemy ships when I don't really have to. Particularly when enemy destroyers or cruisers are around, since you will not be able to run away from them, and smoke screens will only give you temporary cover from aggressive enemies. The low speed of the Isokaze also hurts it in the late game, where it has less ability to capture bases or to get where it is needed quickly. I think that the Isokaze is a contender for the most powerful Japanese destroyer tier for tier. If it was a few knots faster, I think it definitely would be, but at the moment I'm struggling to choose between the Isokaze's average guns and speed and the Minakaze's poor guns and excellent speed. But either way, the Isokaze is a very powerful ship and well worth playing around in. So we'll just talk through, well, the next few minutes of the game. There's only 3 enemy ships left. So far I've sunk 2 of the enemies. Bunch of torpedoes coming our way, and oh no. You just managed to dodge that one. So we're focusing a fair bit there on the Minakaze that was AFK. This was right when they were having the challenge where if you got 4 kills you won a Königsberg, and I really wanted the 4 kills. So the Kuma over here is just coming within torpedo range. I fire off some torpedoes. I'm kind of just using the grey indicator as a bit of an aid, but I'm expecting the Kuma to manoeuvre, so I don't aim directly for it. Instead I see this Congo, I believe it is, yeah, I think it's a stock Congo there. I decide to fire away at it with my guns. At this point in the game I'm not really trying to stay hidden, there's only a few enemy ships left, we're clearly going to win, and I'm just trying to do as much damage as I can before the game's over. And it looks like I've missed the cruiser there, but I do get 2 hits on the Congo. Not enough to sink it, but it does a lot of damage. Fire off more guns, close in. I didn't actually mention this as a tactic, but because you've got a few hit points, it is actually fairly viable to clumb in close with battleships. So fire off 4 torpedoes at the Congo, and 2 hits is enough to sink it. And then, oh actually, those second torpedoes look like they're going to go around and hit the Kuma, which would be excellent, but my allies kill it before me, and, well, there's actually 5 minutes left in this game. There's one enemy ship left, it's running away. We have an idea of where it is, but well, we're not going to catch it. It's probably about 15 kilometers away from me at the moment, and basically I just don't have the speed to catch it. Right at the point where we capture the base and the game ends, I do see its torpedoes coming towards me, so I got very close, but I just didn't have the speed to catch up. And that's what I was saying, meaning when I said that Isokaze is weak in the late game. It's just quite often in those situations where you have to be somewhere else, and the Isokaze just doesn't quite get there quickly enough, or you have to get to the enemy base and it doesn't get there quickly enough, or you have to get back to your base and it won't quite get there quickly enough. But that's this ship's only real weakness. Other than that, it's actually an excellent ship, and as I said earlier, well worth keeping. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video or found it interesting or informative, and I'll see you all next time.